What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Tonight, I'm rocking this Trash Panda swag. If you guys don't know, here in Huntsville, we're actually getting, was it a minor A team? It, it's a minor league baseball team, and the city got to pick who the mascot is, who they would be named after, and it's the Rocket City Trash Pandas. So that that's legit a thing. It's pretty awesome, and I'm drinking out of a Trash Panda beer glass tonight. It's pretty awesome. Casey got me a whole bunch of Trash Panda stuff. Yeah, we're gonna Trash Panda this place up. All right. Oh, hey, heathens, how y'all doing? What's up? Did I already do the what's up, heathens? Damn, I am off my game tonight. It's been a little bit since, it's been about a week since I streamed. So, anyways, tonight we are going to be discussing Richie from Boston and how he thinks that the moon isn't a physical thing, that you can't land on it, and he's got proof that it's not real, or at least not as real as NASA and everybody else wants you to think. So, Richie's going to be telling us how much of a dipshit he is, so get your dingers ready, and we're going to get on into it. Woo! Alright, so tonight we got Richie from Boston. He thinks he's going to prove us wrong on the moon. Now, in case you guys don't know, about 60 years ago, we landed on the fucker. We know it's there. And then sometime after that, like decades later, huh? Oh, 50? I can't do math. Oh, yeah, 50. Sorry, I misremembered how many years. 50 years ago. Fuck me, whatever. Um, so Richie thinks he's got evidence to say, fuck that. Fuck the moon and shit. So let's see what he's got.
Yes, indeed. I'm going after the moon again. I'm going to show you some footage that I took at 6 o'clock a.m. this morning, East Coast, with a Nikon P900. Now watch. This is the snow moon that they spoke so much about. I am pointing directly northwest. The sun has yet to come up. The sun's still not going to come up for another 56 minutes. And the moon is about to set. Okay, so bear that in mind. I muted this because I sound like a creepy schoolyard creeper breathing. The camera really picks up the audio. Listen to this.
I like how he's like, I sound like a creeper outside of an elementary school. Listen to this. And it's like, yep, you sound like you're filming from the bushes there, Richie.
Hear that breathing? Yeah, sound like one of those Pizzagate guys. Okay, so my point is, look how well I can zoom in on this moon.
How well you can zoom in on the moon? Honestly, at this point, I can't tell if it's like a blurry lava flow or if it's the moon. Like, you're not zooming in on shit well there, Richie. It doesn't look like anything. It looks like orange. That's what it looks like. Like, you could legit be just zoomed in on an orange right now. I wouldn't fucking know the difference.
Okay, I'm not talking about how well I'm focusing in on it or anything like that. I'm just saying, why can I zoom in on the moon that's 200 plus thousand miles away, and I can only zoom in on the Prudential building that's less than 3 miles away, only so much?
All right. This is a really fucking hard concept to get there, Richie, so I'm going to walk you through it. Just wait a second. Yeah, real slow. I'm Southern, so it's always slow. The moon is fucking bigger than the Prudential building, Richie!
Do you see what I'm saying? Something is really, really wrong here.
Yeah, you don't know how to fucking focus on a goddamn anything. You don't know how to focus shit there, Richie. That's the problem.
Don't mind the camera work. But the
Don't mind the camera work, but it was the main focus like 30 seconds ago.
other thing I want to talk about is the sun has yet to come up. The sun is coming up in the direct opposite direction. This is where the sun sets. So the sunrise is 180 degrees behind us, and the sun isn't up yet.
All right, small correction here. Richie doesn't understand three-dimensional space. He can only rationalize his reality in a two-dimensional space. So forgive him for thinking that the sun and the moon are like in direct, like two-dimensionally 180 degrees opposite of each other. That's not the actual situation. So you'll just have to excuse him for his ignorance on that part.
What is illuminating the moon? That's a real question. I've studied this for my entire life, and in the last couple of years, I started to notice that things were not adding up any longer. What is lighting up this moon? The sun is not up yet. Theoretically speaking, and using NASA's own terminology, the Earth is between the sun and the moon right now. How is the moon setting, but fully?
Okay, so in a three-dimensional context, well, okay, in a two-dimensional context, the Earth is between the moon and the sun. But in a three-dimensional context, it's not necessarily like directly between it. When the moon is, when the Earth is directly between the moon and the sun, that would cause an eclipse. We have those regularly throughout the years. We have those, but every time the moon goes behind, like three-dimensionally behind the Earth, it's not directly 180 degrees behind the Earth. Sometimes it is. Cite what I just said before, eclipses, but he's not thinking in a three-dimensional space here. Obviously, the sun is reflecting off of the moon because of the fact that they reside in a three-dimensional reality, whereas Richie does not reside there.
Illuminated. Now listen to Robert Pisano right now explain the actual distance away a lot better than I can.
Okay, so I've cut out about 5 minutes of video from Richie's video, mostly out of this guy's particular presentation because he just repeats himself all the goddamn time. So I cut out a lot of his shit, and we're just going to hear sort of the unique portions of the video that Richie's showing us. Oh yes, you can see it. You can see the entire video in the description in the original video link. I have it down there.
I obtained this photo directly from NASA's website. It is allegedly a photograph taken from the surface of the moon, looking back at the Earth, supposedly 258,000 plus miles from the surface of the Earth.
Yes, it is. And I'm not exactly sure which Apollo mission this was, but it really doesn't matter which Apollo mission it was that did this. Regardless, this is an actual photo from the moon looking at the Earth.
Now, you cannot identify any recognizable features, land masses of the Earth. You can't even see all the Earth. You can't.
Well, no, because most of the surface of the Earth is covered by water. So you can see the water, and really you can see some land masses up there to the left, which I don't have. Hold on, maybe should probably let me turn on my cursor real quick. If well, it's not capturing. Oh, there we go. This part right here if you can see my cursor, that looks like landmass. This over here looks like landmass. So, I mean, you can see landmass from the Earth, on the Earth from the moon. It's just that with the way that the sun is reflecting off of the Earth, the white clouds are really like overexposing the shot. And so you can't see a lot of detail because of how much light is being reflected off of the Earth there.
You can't tell where the beaches are, the shoreline, nothing. Mountains, anything. You just see clouds. Why they didn't bring a telephoto zoom lens camera, I don't know. But let's just say you're on the surface of the moon looking with your...
Did you seriously just ask why the Apollo crew didn't bring a telephoto lens so that they could take a picture of the continents of the Earth? Like, from the moon? What purpose would that have? Why would they need to bring that? That's extra shit on their mission that doesn't need to be there. That's weighing them down. They don't need to bring that shit with them.
Naked eye, and you can't see any recognizable landmasses. All of this data here, the axial tilt to orbit and the inclination, that's nonsense. Don't even pay attention to that.
I like how the person that Richie chooses to highlight on this particular issue takes a perfect explanation for the Earth-Moon system. Like, explains the barycenter and all of this other stuff, explains the tilts and the moon's orbit and everything. Takes that and he's just like, forget that. Fuck this shit. This is not true. It's like, you can't just sit there and be like, no, fuck this shit. Like, you can't, that's not how shit works. Explain why we should not be, accepting of the consensus that science has given us. Like, what would make us question it?
It's not a real Earth model. That they want 7 billion people on the planet to believe this moon is 258,000 miles from the surface of the Earth. I don't know what took this picture.
So there's two particular portions of the Apollo ship, right? You've got the lander that would, of course, they had to connect to before actually leaving Earth's lower orbit or whatever. Before actually leaving all of Earth, they flipped around and they attached themselves, and then they continued on to the moon. And then when they got to the moon, the lander would detach from that main module, and then one person had to stay behind in that module. I don't know how many people he thinks actually went on Apollo missions, but it had to be at least 3 people. One person to actually fly the main module as it orbits around the moon, and then the 2 people in the lander. So that's who would have taken the picture. This kind of thing right here just shows you that this person doesn't even know how the Apollo missions happened, at least how NASA says they happened, or else he would have known this. Also, perspective, motherfucker, learn it.
Hell, the moon even looks flat. But this is the moon looking at the Earth. You can't recognize any land masses. Okay? That's NASA.
Well, yeah, because of perspective. I mean, you're you're trying to get a shot of both the Earth, the moon, and the lander as it is. I don't know if that was taken while it was like descending onto the lunar surface. Oh, the ascent module. Oh, okay. I couldn't tell from that picture, but either way, the either the ascent module or the whole lunar lander, whichever one, but it would have been the main ship that was orbiting around the moon that the person took the picture from.
Now, here is the moon. This is the moon. This is a photograph taken by a photographer who works for the European Southern Observatory in Chile at 8,218 feet above sea level. This was taken from the surface of the Earth. This is during a supermoon event.
Right. So the difference here is that the Earth has a lot of atmosphere on it that's going to cause a lot of obscuring of the land masses and everything like that. The moon doesn't have an atmosphere. It doesn't have clouds in order to obscure anything. If there were no clouds whatsoever in the shot previous, we would be able to see land masses just fine. But because they were obscured, the oceans, were exposed, and so that's what we mainly saw. So the fact that the moon doesn't have an atmosphere, doesn't have anything to obscure it or anything like that, is why we can see the full, surface of the moon, and we couldn't see Earth's full surface. This is like basic shit. I feel like anybody looking at the two pictures would be able to be like, oh yeah, there's clouds on the Earth, and there aren't clouds on the moon. That's why. But then you have dipshits like this and Richie who listen to him.
Supermoon. You can actually recognize some of the surface features on the moon. We can see the moon very clearly from the surface of the Earth, but according to NASA, this is a photo taken. This is a photo taken from the surface of the moon looking at the Earth. Moon, Earth. This is supposed to be a distance of 258,000 miles.
Yes, and it is, because we can bounce lasers off the moon, because we've left mirrors up there that will reflect the lasers back, and using the basic, laws of physics like the speed of light and shit, we can figure out exactly how far away the moon is at any given point in time. It is the 258,000 miles. I can't remember if that's the exact number or what. I think it might be like 248 or 250. Yeah, 250, 248, something like that. Anyways, it is that far away. For one, the Earth is fucking huge, okay? Two, the perspective of the shot here, it makes the Earth look a lot smaller than it is. This is basic shit.
So I ask you, based on comparison, does this look like the moon is 258,000 miles from the surface of the Earth?
Yes, because the moon is very big, and so we would be able to see very big things from vast distances. That's just how sight works.
When you can see the features of the moon very clearly, the surface features of the moon, right?
Now, I know a lot of people are hemming and hawing right now, but I am at NASA's YouTube channel, and
I'm not hemming and hawing or anything like that. I'm just amazed at how much of a dipshit you are. Like, you're such a fucking idiot that you don't know how goddamn sight works or how perspective works. Like, it amazes me, Richie.
is them showing from their satellite called Epic. This is exactly an actual video of what the moon looks like transiting the Earth.
Oh, wow, look, even from a million miles away, we have the Earth. The land masses, they're pretty obscured. We see mostly water because most of the surface of the Earth is covered with water.
Do you understand that if you were standing right there on the moon, taking a picture of Earth, all you would see is Earth? Because this is an actual satellite transmission from NASA, according to what they tell us. Right there. That's actual footage from their Epic satellite. That's a million miles in space. That's actually the moon. That's actually Earth, according to NASA. If you were standing on the...
Okay, so this is, again, his misunderstanding of perspective. Because from a million miles away, you can get both the Earth and the moon in the same shot, and you can see a relative size. But if you're perspective changes to the surface of the moon, then you would not have that same shot. Like, you don't have the same perspective from 250,000 miles away compared to 1,000,000 miles away at was it Lagrange 1? I think that's the Lagrange 1 point. You know, you wouldn't have the same perspective. You would have a different perspective. If you wanted to get, you know, the Earth in the shot, you could adjust your camera to where you could get the Earth in the shot. This is how, like, focal length works. This is how just photography in general works. This is how light works.
The moon, taking a picture of Earth, you wouldn't see what looks like the moon. You would see nothing but Earth. That's common sense. That's something NASA doesn't believe anybody has. And they work really hard through fluoridation, genetically modified foods, vaccines, and medications, as well as predictive programming up the wazoo.
Just take this in for a minute, people. NASA is using vaccines. What else did he say? He had a whole list of things that they were using. Big
Earth. That's common sense. That's something NASA doesn't believe anybody has. And they work really hard through fluoridation, genetically modified foods, vaccines, and medications, as well as predictive programming up the wazoo.
So, up the wazoo is fluoride in the waters. That helps us believe that the Earth and Moon look like this in relative comparison. Predictive programming does it. Vaccines do it. Medications do it. All of the Illuminati shield shit is specifically for making us think that the moon is smaller than the Earth, and we can move to a position where our perspective would allow us to view the relative sizes of both objects. Apparently, NASA needs fluoride to fucking do this. The fuck are you talking about, Richie? None of this makes sense. How does fluoride convince us that the moon is 250,000 miles away? How does predictive programming, how does that work into it? I mean, I don't understand. I really want to understand Richie's position on this, but I can't. Like, I am just one of those people that can't see it from your point of view.
To make you not think of that. Look at that. You see what I'm saying? This is actual video I've taken with the Nikon P900. How in the world at exactly sea level can I get video this close of something that's 200,000 plus miles away?
Because that's how zooming works, Richie. You zoom in on shit. You change certain aspects of your lens and you can zoom in on shit. If you wanted to zoom in more, get a bigger fucking lens, Richie. That's all you gotta do. How the fuck do you think that we see goddamn galaxies from very far off? You can either use a radio telescope, which I know would probably blow your mind, the fact that we can use radio waves and other portions of the electromagnetic spectrum to see things out in the universe, but we'd use that, or just really big fucking telescopes. Why don't we just pour some more fluoride on this bitch, Richie, and you understand.
And yet, when I point my camera across the harbor to Boston, I can only zoom in so much on the Prudential building, which is 5 miles away.
Yes, it's only 5 miles away. It is also a lot smaller than the fucking moon. Okay? So, if the Prudential building was as big as the fucking moon, yeah, I'm sure you could zoom in on it pretty far and get some pretty good detail on it if it was as big as the fucking moon.
But yet, I can zoom in on the moon all I want. All I want. Do you see what I'm saying? We're being lied to here, people. Seriously, look at how close on the. Look at the. I mean, I don't even know how else to explain it. Look how close I am here.
Yeah, and I've got a telescope in there where I can get just as close because that's how lenses work. I mean, this is basic stuff you could find like in a basic textbook. But you see, the thing is that he won't trust the textbooks. He won't trust what science already tells him. But yet, at the same time, he's using like instruments and shit that science gives us that operates on the principles that are taught in the book. His fucking P900 operates on the basic principles of physics. That you can change the focal length and all this other shit of a camera's lens, and you can view it in different ways, and you can zoom in and out and everything like that. It's just such a fucking confusing thing, because you would think that any rational adult would be able to reason his way there, but all Richie does is, well, fuck, I can't think of a better reason why I can zoom in this far on it. I don't know how this P900 works, but goddamn, there must be some magical fucking little gremlins in there that zoom the thingy in. Oh my god, is that what servos are? Servos, honey, servos are just little gremlins turning the tranks inside of the fucking cameras, and they are magically making images appear on my screen. I can't think of a better way to explain it.
Seriously? We're being lied to. The moon is not a rock that can be landed on. Richard Hoagland, those moon bases, he's a disinfo agent. I don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth.
You know what's funny? As I was looking up tags in order to put for this video, I put in Richie from Boston, and like there were about 5 or so tags that was like Richie from Boston, disinfo agent, or a shill, or one really weird one was Richie from Boston is a Jew. And it's like, why the fuck would that matter? I mean, for these conspiracy nuts, they think that they're very anti-Semitic. So they really think that the Jews are like controlling media and all this other stuff. So they're very anti-Semitic. But it's so funny how Richie's own logic can be turned against him to where he is a disinfo agent. And you would not be wrong in the conspiracy theory crowd to say, oh yeah, that Richie from Boston, he gets paid by them Illuminati shills out in Washington, D.C. to make us all look fucking stupid. But let me tell you about the giants at the center of the earth that ball up shit and make moons out in our orbit, okay?
This planet, this disk we see in the sky, this lesser light is a self-illuminating light. And
no, it reflects sunlight. It's not self-illuminating. Like, exactly how is it illuminating off of its surface there, bud? Like, what do you think the craters are? What kind of light? Is this a special light? Because it's definitely not a star. It's not the same thing as the sun, so it must be emanating some kind of like special light. It's creating photons somehow. I would love to know how it's doing that, Richie.
Nothing more. It wasn't a rock that crashed into the earth and then turned into the perfect size to make an eclipse.
Well, no. Okay, so eclipses are a matter of the orbit of the moon, like how close or how far away it is. And we just so happen to live in a really good time where the moon can cover up like the sun, for instance, in a solar eclipse. It can cover it up completely and reach totality. But, you know, in a couple thousand years or so, we won't have that. Like, there won't be any more full, like, eclipses and shit. It'll be too far away for it to, you know, be a perfect match for it. So, you know, the moon hasn't always been in the position that it's in, like, as far as distance from the Earth. And that distance changes. That's why there are supermoons, like you even mentioned, or you had that other guy mention earlier in the clip. There are supermoons. That's when the moon is particularly close to the surface of the Earth. At least, you know, closer than it normally is.
that never actually turns, that we only see one face of. I mean, nothing about it makes any sense whatsoever, and yet people go along with it. So feel free to thumbs down, leave your comments, explain to me about all your different degrees and so forth and so on.
Actually, my degrees in engineering have no bearing on this particular topic. So, I mean, I don't need to tout my degrees in order to refute you or anything like that, or even to be valid. I just have to know how fucking eyes work and shit. Like, how a camera works, how zooming on a camera works. Like, that's the only shit that I've got to know in order to be able to laugh at your ass, Richie.
I'm going to stick with common sense and what I can see. Richie from Boston. Like, share, subscribe, or don't. I'm out.
I agree. Like, share, subscribe, or don't. That's it from Richie tonight. Obviously, he's completely wrong about his whole assertion that the moon is not a solid object. Richie, he doesn't have anything new to bring. Of course, this video is 2 years old. But still, the Flat Earth crowd, they think that the moon is not a solid thing. They think that it emits its own light. They think all of the things that Richie says here. And Richie hasn't provided anything at all to suggest that the moon is somehow not real. At least not real in the way that we know it to be real. But, you know, of course, these conspiracy theory people, as you saw, they'll just throw out good science for their conspiracy bullshit. And that's pretty much the MO of all of the conspiracy theorists out there. So you have to take that into account. Nothing you say to these people will ever get through to them, but knowing why they're wrong and knowing the ridiculous arguments that they are putting out there is very important, because we have to continuously fight back against the anti-science rhetoric that's been permeating throughout YouTube as well as other social media platforms. So that's why we covered it tonight, and that's going to be it for the video. I really appreciate you guys being here, watching this video and everything like that. Like Richie said, like, share, subscribe, or don't. But above all else, make sure you stand up and use your voice.